and welcome to the Sportscast, December 31st, 2018. If you haven't yet, please subscribe on our channels on YouTube, Periscope, and iTunes. And if you're on iTunes, please leave a rating and a review. It will help us out tremendously. The Orange Bowl, probably the most exciting bowl this past weekend, more exciting than the Cotton Bowl. I thought it was a very overwhelming win by Alabama, but Oklahoma had the offense to come back. And Alabama, all they needed to do, which we spoke about it here at the Sportscast, cast, is just keep scoring. They got a good lead, and then Oklahoma just came back incrementally, but Alabama kept scoring as well. Oklahoma had no defense. Anyways, to join us to talk to us a little bit about the Orange Bowl is Mr. Justin Riley. Welcome to the Sportscast.
Hey, man, great to be here. It's great to be from Alabama right now.
It is, Justin. And like you were saying, I mean, you were nervous about the game right before the game. It seems like here at the Sportscast, we were predicting it right. Like it'll be a whole lot of scoring.
Without a doubt. It certainly started out pretty crazy. Alabama had 28 unanswered points, and it looked to everybody like it was just going to be another blowout college football playoff, which wasn't going to do very much for TV ratings. But things quickly settled down and in a hurry, and Oklahoma was able to recapture themselves and was able to actually join the game and made it very interesting. And just like you, Ty, and others predicted, man, it was a scoring fest.
It was. Alabama was a juggernaut this year, yet to be stopped. Oklahoma had a shaky defense, wasn't going to get in the way. But, Tua Tagovailoa threw for 318 yards, 4 touchdowns, and is the number one ranked, for 318 yards and 4 touchdowns. How do you rate his performance, even being at 85%?
Man, if that was 85%, I can't wait to see 100. It was truly amazing to see what a healthy, or I guess somewhat healthy, Tua Tagovailoa can do. And what was even better was that he had virtually no pressure the entire night. I mean, there's a couple of times he may have been hurried. But overall, man, he had plenty of time to do what he needed to do. Definitely weren't suffering anything from our offensive lineman, Deontay Brown, who was suspended from the game. Cotton was able to do a phenomenal job, but he was on point. His throws, I mean, there are a few throws that may have been off during the game, but for the majority of his throws, man, they're just beautiful, just crisp, just placed in all the right areas. Just incredible, as seen by that incredible touchdown catch by Henry Ruggs. Tua was 24 of 27 for 318 yards. He had more touchdowns than he did incompletions. So I'd say that's a pretty good day. And anyone who was doubting Tua Tagovailoa coming into this game got a healthy dose of shut up.
Nick Saban, for a few times, spiked his headset during his several sideline tirades. What was the issue with those?
Just dumb mistakes, man. Mental errors. Just making idiotic decisions by a couple of players. Keaton Anderson being one of those on special teams had a couple of blunders that had some unsportsmanlike conduct penalties caused against him. And then let's see. Jedrick Willis Jr. had 3 penalties in a row on offense. One of the later drives during the game, I believe it was in the third quarter, ended up causing the offense to stall, and they had to settle for a field goal. They could have extended their lead a little bit greater than what they were. But just one thing that really gets under Nick Saban's skin is just making dumb errors. And it was happening. And, man, he lit into it. Matter of fact, one of those mistakes, he actually went after Tua.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that when
So
Tua was walking out the
even
field.
Tua is not.
I saw that. Yeah.
Even Tua is not immune to the wrath of Saban.
Yeah, no one's safe. He's very similar to Belichick. He's not emotionally attached to players, I think, and I think he'll just say what he needs to say. Alabama led 28-0 after 17 minutes. Kyler Murray from Oklahoma was sacked twice before he threw a pass, and his first completion came with his team already down 21-0. How did you think Kyler Murray played in this game?
Well, in the first half, he was virtually ineffective. He started to pick up steam as they drew closer to the end of the first half. I knew that what we were seeing up until that point was not going to be the overall picture we were going to get from him and the Oklahoma offense as a whole for the entire game. I felt at any moment that they were talented enough, certainly Kyler Murray was talented enough, to turn the game at any point and bring Oklahoma back into it. His performance was just truly phenomenal. I gained even more respect for him. And anyone who may have doubted him in the least bit certainly was proven wrong. He had a phenomenal night. He had 308 yards passing, and he also had another 109 yards on the ground. He did play a little bit out of character. He was harassed quite frequently in the pocket. Matter of fact, Oklahoma had absolutely no answer for Christian Miller or Anthony Jennings, who acquainted themselves very well with Kyler Murray. Unless Kyler was rolling out of the pocket, a lot of his throws weren't getting completed, with the exception of that one deep bomb he threw to Rambo. But overall, he just really showed incredible poise and incredible resolve, and he willed his team back into this game, and at several points got within 11. And that may seem like a lot to some people, but they really were in striking distance for the majority of the second half. And if not for Kyler Murray's heroics, it wouldn't have happened. I mean, he willed his team back into this game. Truly exceptional player, truly exceptional leader, and you saw evidence of that based on what he was able to do.
How do you think Alabama's defense performed?
Well, I think in the first half they were absolutely lights out. I think what happened here was they did the best they could with an incredible offense that they faced. They've never faced an offense like this, I don't think ever, in history of the school. They adjusted quite well, but I think they were just gassed. That's why you saw more points being given up. You saw a lot more yardage being given up, and Oklahoma was able to do a lot more. I think Saban started to realize, hey, I better slow the tempo down a little bit and start running the ball a little bit more because I believe at one point they were trying to match Oklahoma shout for shout when it came to the passing game, and Oklahoma couldn't stop Alabama in their passing attack. So, but the unfortunate thing was it wasn't giving the defense enough time to rest. So they got gassed pretty well the later part of the game, and thus the higher score.
Alabama had the ball for more than 36 minutes and totaled 528 yards. Do you think Alabama had good ball management?
I think so. I think that Coach Saban and the coaching staff were making the right calls and the right plays to keep Oklahoma off balance and to really control the flow of the game pretty much any time they wanted. Yeah, they did manage to allow Oklahoma back in it at points, but outside looking in, Alabama really controlled the flow of the game the entire way. Even though there's times that was being threatened, Alabama really did have their way with Oklahoma.
Alabama's linebacker Christian Miller limped to the locker room in the third quarter with a left hamstring injury. An MRI was planned, but I have no late news about it. How much of a factor will that be if he's missing out for the national championship?
Well, like you said, they're going to do an MRI to determine the severity of it. Of course, from a hamstring injury, you can bounce back pretty quickly. But if you've ever pulled a hamstring, it takes quite a while to really get back to 100%, and especially from a mental aspect. So you kind of wonder how effective is Christian Miller going to be able to be from a contributing standpoint against Clemson. With a pulled hamstring, your explosiveness is limited a little bit. So what we saw from him against Oklahoma won't be quite as intense, just because, I mean, you're not going to have that explosive first step because of that limitation. From a leadership standpoint, he will be able to provide some very key skills for the defensive players, but how well will he contribute? We don't know yet. It's to be determined. But yeah, we definitely need him on the field. Hopefully, he's able to recover nicely. Even at 85%, Christian Miller is pretty good.
It's worked out for
not too good, but but I think he does add an extra dimension, and will cause Clemson to do a little extra planning if he's in there.
Here's my takeaway. The Crimson Tide need one more win for their 6th national championship in the past decade. They have a chance to finish 15-0, which hasn't been done at the top level of college football since Penn went 15-0 in 1896. Havens moved closer to his 7th national title, which would break the record he shares with the Crimson Tide's Bear Bryant. This is a huge stepping stone for them if they win it.
Absolutely. I mean, not that Nick Saban's legacy isn't already cemented with Alabama and college football as a whole, but to pass Bear Bryant is an incredible milestone. Words really can't describe the enormity of this. It's just an incredible milestone, and I think once that happens, you've got to consider Nick Saban probably the best coach ever in the collegiate.
Yourself. Anyways, the Cotton Bowl Classic wasn't as exciting. Clemson Tigers defeated Notre Dame 30-3, which Clemson scored majority of the points in the first half. Was this a weak matchup? Was Notre Dame a very weak number 3? I mean, or is Clemson that good?
Well, I'm going to be the first to tell you that I was truly shocked about the outcome of this game. I thought that Notre Dame would put up a tremendous fight, and I thought they had the defensive players in place to make Clemson really work for everything they got. But that was not the case, and I was blown away by just how Clemson was able to dismantle them. I think that Notre Dame had opportunities early on to make this a game, and because they couldn't capitalize on those opportunities, it allowed Clemson just to take over the game and turn things south for them very, very quickly.
Yeah, something that, that I've been hearing is like, what if Georgia was, playing in this game, but, Georgia couldn't jump to number 3. It would have been a number 4.
Well, I definitely think based on the eye test from this game that Georgia would definitely have been a better matchup for Clemson. Possibly even been capable of beating Clemson.
Wow.
I couldn't imagine them putting up a fight like, well, I use the term loosely, a fight like Notre Dame did. I definitely think that Clemson would have been on the ropes against Georgia and possibly facing a defeat. I don't think that Clemson probably would have been able to handle the Dogs and what they brought on offense and then what they brought from a defensive standpoint. Clearly going into the later part of the season, including the SEC championship, the Georgia Bulldogs were one of the best teams in the country. Notre Dame got there because they were undefeated. But you kind of wonder just how good Notre Dame was. Their schedule really wasn't that phenomenal. It really wasn't at a level of which it would have prepared them for a team like Clemson. But then some would argue, well, Clemson didn't really have a tough schedule either this year. Well, that might be true, but Clemson has played on a high level for several years now. And when you're the experienced team and you're a team that's been in the playoffs for the past 3-4 years, you just turn it up another notch once you get there. Regardless of what the regular season did, they were just able to take
27 yards. Is he a good quarterback?
I think he's a very good quarterback. I was very impressed with what he was able to do against Notre Dame. I think he had one of the better games statistically this game than he's had the entire season. I think he matured. He definitely showed a lot more confidence and poise than his counterpart did, Book. He grew up and he transcended freshman to veteran, if that makes sense. Really, really pleased with his performance. His ball placement was really great. I mean, he was just throwing darts like a seasoned professional, man. It was incredible to see his evolution in this game, and it's going to be interesting to see how he adapts well to Alabama's defense.
Yes, and we'll preview that next week for our national championship preview show, which I know Justin will be preparing for that extensively. And other news in sports, last night the NFL has put everything in concrete. Who is playing in the playoffs? We had a wild weekend, with the national championships. With the bowl games, and also with the NFL's last weekend to figure out who will be playing in the playoffs, and this is what is looking like for the schedule. The first seed is, give me one sec. The first seed is Kansas City. Second seed is the New England Patriots, and obviously this weekend is wild card weekend. We got the Colts versus the Texans, then Seahawks, Cowboys, Chargers, Ravens, Eagles, and Bears. The Ravens last night came close of being eliminated again, how they did last year with the Bills. How'd you see that the matchups yesterday?
Well, for the games that really mattered, man, all those teams really put up a tremendous fight. I'm glad that my Ravens were able to be on the good side of that, and they were able to turn the tables and not repeat their mistake from last year. But I think this team is as a mature team, a team that's really grown up over this past season. They've taken on a new identity and also a new confidence level with the insertion of Lamar Jackson. The Browns definitely tested them to the very end, which was no surprise to anybody who's been following football the past several weeks. The Browns have been really playing at another level, and definitely sets up well for a possible good run next season. But they were able to overcome the Browns' late surge, and C.J. Mosley sealed the deal by intercepting Baker Mayfield's throw. Kind of ironic that the Alabama player stopped an Oklahoma player to seal the deal.
Yeah,
but
very much
they
so.
are the champions of the AFC North, and they are one of the teams who are playing some of the best football right now. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see if they're able to carry that over into the playoffs. I think about 2 weeks ago, and were able to come away with a victory at San Diego's, not San Diego, they're not there anymore.
Los Angeles Chargers.
San Diego. The Los Angeles Chargers, apparently, I don't know what's wrong with me today, but you get where I'm coming from. They went to the home turf of the Chargers and were able to get a victory. So I feel like that that is a good matchup for them in the first round. Just how deep will they go? Not really sure. Lamar Jackson is the only rookie quarterback that's going to be starting in the playoffs.
That's a very good point.
So
he surpassed Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, and Rosen. Lamar was not mentioned in those top quarterbacks for the draft.
No, not at all. And what he's been able to do replacing Flacco has been absolutely amazing to watch. Seeing his evolution and see how he was able to take the reins so quickly. I mean, there wasn't really any growing pains, as it were.
He was a
for this
natural
guy.
NFL quarterback.
Yeah, right. I mean, he didn't stumble. He didn't really play like a rookie. Was he perfect? No, not at all. But he played like he'd been taking snaps for a good while now. It was just really impressive to see what this young man was able to do.
What you think about Baker's performance this past year?
Well, from an athletic standpoint, give him props. He did some great things. He resurrected the Browns, who were seemingly destined for another craptacular season. He was able to revive them and breathe new life into that team, and not only the offense, but the team as a whole. And of course, when they did away with their coach, they were able to really break out. And Baker Mayfield was at the helm of that. As far as his antics, I don't really care for his antics. I think he needs to grow up and be a little bit more mature, and have some class about him. But from a number standpoint, he did some phenomenal things, and he actually brought the Browns within grasp of the playoffs.
Yeah, and people were thinking the Browns might get 5 to 6 wins this year, but they went to 7 wins, so they for sure exceeded expectations.
Without a doubt, and maybe had this change at the helm of quarterback happened earlier, they quite possibly could be in a wild card spot right now. We don't know. Of course, it may have affected the coaching change. We don't know what the outcome may be, but for everyone who watched football, pro football, this Browns team took on a new personality that it can't be denied.
Exactly. Well, I got the standings correct right now. AFC, the top teams were the Chiefs, Chargers, Patriots, Texans, Ravens, and Colts making it into the playoffs. For the NFC, we got the Saints, Rams, Bears, Cowboys, Seahawks, and Eagles. It's interesting because I was talking to a friend this morning about this, and it feels like this playoffs seems very leveled. Anyone could really make it to the Super Bowl. Can you name your top 2 teams, or like your top 2 teams that will make it to the Super Bowl from this list?
I think the one that stands out to me the most is New Orleans.
Yeah, me too.
I think that they are playing on a mission. I think they're playing at a level that no one else is. And they're also a team with experience. So I think that going into the playoffs is going to be huge as opposed to some of the other teams that are going in. I really don't feel like there's really any other team that really separates themselves far and away from others right now other than New Orleans. I could be surprised. I think in the AFC, I'm going to be honest with you, the Chiefs have done some really good things this year, especially with Mahomes, but I don't really believe in them. They don't have that experience. If I've got to, I guess, I don't know if pull is the right word, but if I have to actually count on someone to be successful in the AFC, you have to go with the Patriots just because they've been there, they've done that, they know how to work the playoff thing. It's their world. And the Patriots are the ones who dethrone an AFC.
And, just to piggyback what you say about the Chiefs, their weak defense, you see exposed. Very similar to Oklahoma. Sure, they have high-power offense, but if you see their defense, there's a crack to that. And I'm sure the Patriots can figure how to beat them, even in Kansas City.
Absolutely. You've got Bill Belichick, who is the one of the greatest minds in professional football right now, and he really knows how to put together a game plan that can completely disrupt any team, no matter how good they are, regardless if they're at their home field in Boston or they're away. It doesn't really matter, and regardless of just how incredible and prolific that Kansas City offense is right now, like you said, man, not having a defense is going to be a problem. And the Patriots will, if they do face the Patriots at some point, the Patriots will expose it. The Patriots and Belichick can expose any weakness and use it to their advantage.
Did you know that the Patriots have never gone to the Super Bowl without home field advantage?
Wow, it's hard to imagine that.
Except for the first time they won.
Anybody,
that's the only one that they did it.
Right.
So,
well, if anybody can do it, it's the Patriots.
That's
are they as talented as they've been in the years past? Not really. But that experience and the veterans on that team, the Tom Brady factor, it makes up for a lot that's absent in other areas.
One matchup I really see for this weekend is the Eagles and Bears. Bears have a great defense, and the Eagles cracked in last minute. What should we expect from the Eagles? Are the Eagles a contender? What are your thoughts about that matchup?
I think that, first of all, the Eagles would have been a lot better off had Foles been brought into the mix a lot earlier than he was. I really feel like the entire season that the Eagles' identity was with Foles. And I don't care what Carson Wentz has done. I don't care, if he was a first-round draft pick, and when Foles came in last season to take over that team and got into the Super Bowl, it became his team. And you can't expect, and when you try to reinsert Wentz, you can't expect that dynamic to just shift back to the way things were when Wentz was in. That was Foles' team, and disrupted the chemistry of everything. I don't know if you'll agree with me on that or not, but it made a big difference along with having injuries in key positions. But it just disrupted the complete dynamic of that team. And when you put him back in, it's like they picked it back up where they left off, which I think is going to make them very dangerous in the playoffs. Will they be a contender? Don't know, but their chances to be a contender are a lot greater now because Nick Foles is in the fold.
I do agree, and I was talking to an Eagles fan the other day, and of course Nick Foles is 29, 30 years old. If Nick Foles was very potentially could win another Super Bowl this year, if he wins the Super Bowl this time around again, now like the whole question is he the franchise quarterback now? Is Wentz bench or Wentz leaves? This big debate goes on now.